Oh, son of a bitch. What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video, another quick take. I got my main man, my partner, my brother here.
I went 1-on-1 with the flu. I may not be Mike Tyson, but I'm still undefeated. Always a pleasure, bro.
My man. So, we've got an article courtesy of Deadline, which says LL Cool J says humbly that one day people are going to wake up and say he is the most important rapper that ever existed. The article goes on to say LL Cool J is seemingly in the mood to stir things up in the music industry with the latest take on himself. In a recent interview, the rapper said that people would recognize his greatness and his contributions to rap and hip hop culture. And I have the full quote here that I'm going to read, which says, they're going to look and say, wow, when it comes to jewelry, this is the guy that introduced all the diamond and the ice and the champagne. They're going to say, when it comes to the love songs, this is the guy who introduced the love songs and all the love shit. When it comes to the bad boy vibe, they're going to realize, oh, this is the guy who introduced all the rebellious bad boy vibes before it was done. When it comes to the GOAT terminology, they're going to say, yo, this is the guy who came up with the GOAT stuff. They're going to say, when it comes to Def Jam, wow, this is the first artist that was on Def Jam. All right, so now the reason why I wanted to talk about this is for a couple of different reasons. But, first and foremost, music is rarely ever a topic of discussion here on the Quick Takes. And I wanted to talk about it because I do believe I have a valid rebuttal and a contrary opinion to what LL Cool J said. But before I go and give my opinion, I wanted to know what you think about what LL Cool J said.
Oh, yeah. This is gonna be a good one because I thought we was gonna agree, but I gotta say, I think that Tony Yayo had a good point on DJ Vlad not too long ago because DJ Vlad asked him his top 10, top 20 favorite rappers of all time. And when he put LL Cool J on that list, DJ Vlad pushed back and said, LL Cool J. And Tony Yayo goes on a whole diatribe. He's like, "Hey, yo, you don't disrespect legends. L. Cool J was the guy that made rap and talking about sex and love and all that, romance. He made it popular. The bucket hats. He's a lot before our generation. But I remember as a kid, people wearing those bucket hats like he did, wearing the jumpsuits that he used to have, the jewelry. And I think that L. Cool J don't get his due because just like Ice-T, he transitioned from music into something else.
Right.
And people forgot about what he did before that. And I think that, L. Cool J, to his credit and his detriment, one of the biggest reasons why people don't treat him the way that they do is because he's not out here talking about shooting people and murder and gun violence and drugs. He doesn't do that, and he never did that. So I think for him, because he's an older guy and he's not our generation, we're all about what have you done for me lately, as opposed to what have you done for me before. So it's like the whole Michael Jordan debate. No matter what happens, Kobe, Steph Curry, LeBron, there's always going to be somebody who think people going to think is better than the Michael Jordans of the world. And you could say that for any sport. And I think that L. Cool J, I'm glad he's speaking his piece because for the longest
Mhm.
time, once he left, um, kind of part-time music and he became a full-time actor, people forgot about him because he wasn't making music like he used to. He wasn't putting himself out there to our generation than he was in his prime. So we forgot about him. But you know what? Hats off to him, and I give him a shout out because yeah, he may not be our generation, but I appreciate all the music he's done. I have a lot of songs on him on my phone, and L Cool J is the man. But I want to hear what your opinion is.
So you agree. So you feel that he is the most important rapper that ever existed, is what you're saying. So you share that same sentiment.
I don't think he's the most important, but I think his significance is up there.
Okay, so I want to find out who you think the most important rapper to ever existed is a little bit later on, but I'm gonna give my reaction to that and who I think the most important rapper to ever existed is. Now, I'm gonna break it down like this, okay? Just because you came first or you were one of the first rappers out the gate does not automatically make you the most important rapper to have ever existed. I would say he is one of the forefathers of what rap went on to be. Absolutely. And is he one of the most important? Yes, I would agree. He is, for sure. I'm not even going to dispute that. But just because Wilt Chamberlain was, you know, in the league before Michael Jordan, that doesn't mean that he's more important to the NBA than Michael Jordan was. You get what I'm saying? You get the analogy there. There's a difference between coming first and changing the game. All right. And I honestly, I would debate that there are rappers more important than LL Cool J. I would say you could probably put him, let's say, in the top 5. Okay. But he's not number one. Now, for people who are on my YouTube channel, I'm not being biased. I'm going to back up my opinion with facts. Okay. I am going to say that when I look at the landscape of hip hop from the 80s up until now, I'm going to say that Will Smith is the most important rapper to have ever existed, and I will die on that hill. Now, here's why for I would say maybe 2 to 3 different reasons. And y'all can come in the comment sections and try to bring the smoke. You can try, but I mean, facts are the facts. All right. For one, Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff, but Will Smith was the face, okay? They were the first rap group artists to ever receive a Grammy Award for Best Rap Performance. And then on top of that, that category wasn't even televised. So they protested the Grammys. So when you go to the Grammys right now and rappers have their own, section and they're recognizing all of that, you have Will Smith to thank for that because they weren't even acknowledging rap back then. They weren't. R&B singers weren't even really allowed to rap on their records for the R&B singers and groups that, had their come up from urban areas and the streets. And if they did include those on their records, on their songs, those songs wouldn't get radio play or they had to do a radio edit and remove the rap off of that shit. Okay? So Will Smith, they started that. All right? Because Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff, they came out 1 year after, LL Cool J. So they didn't come to, far after him. Now, granted, 88, 89 was their peak with He's the DJ and I'm a Rapper, but they were also, a platinum selling group, just like LL Cool J was. And if that's not enough for you, I'm going to go a step further, okay? Because you see, back then, right, it wasn't enough to be just a successful platinum selling rapper to become a star. Do you want to know who the first rapper that became a star was? It was Will Smith. Okay? You see, LL Cool J, and I'm just being real, but this is facts. LL Cool J spent the rest of his career in the 90s trying to be like Will Smith. That's a fact. He looked at Will Smith and was like, yo, I'm trying to be like that. So what did he do? He transitioned from rapping also into acting because he wanted to do the same thing. He even went a step further and literally copied and pasted Fresh Prince and tried to do his own sitcom. And who was his right-hand man? Alfonso Ribeiro. So who was the supposed most important rapper to have ever existed trying to be like? So you get what I'm saying? So who was more important? Will or LL Cool J? Now, is LL Cool J a better MC rapper pound for pound than Will Smith? Yes. I'm not even going to dispute that. Because I think Will is, I don't want to say he's an acquired taste, but he's not a guy that you give him a mic and you put him on stage across from another rapper or MC. He probably could hold, basically that's just not his lane where I would rely on LL Cool J to be a battle MC, and to kind of really do that. Will Smith wasn't really like that. You know what I'm saying? Will Smith was more so the lighthearted, fun entertainer type of rapper. And that's one of the reasons why he didn't get his credit, his just due. Other rappers used to talk shit about DJ, Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince. Why? Because they weren't pandering to sex. They weren't pandering to violence and drugs. They weren't doing that. They went platinum without doing that shit. Whereas LL, he was the tough guy, ladies man from the streets. Will Smith never painted himself to be that. And I would wager he was more successful than LL Cool J if you want to talk careers. I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. Because even without Jazzy Jeff, he still came out with Big Willie Style, Millennium, platinum selling albums after he became a star. He was doing both. Now, yes, LL Cool J was doing movies and stuff like that, but he doesn't have a Bad Boys on his belt. He doesn't have Independence Day on his belt. He doesn't have Men in Black on his belt. He never became a star on screen. Not really. I would put him in the same category as Ice-T. He was a working actor at that point, but he never became a star. Everybody knew that, okay, I'm a multi-platinum selling artist, and a lot of them, I would say the majority of artists, they always tried their hand at acting. You want to know why? Because Will was the first one to do that. Everybody was looking at him. Will changed the game for what it means to be a star, not only in music but in film. And again, how many other musicians can you say did the same thing other than him? Name me one. Can you? You can't. You can't do that. There's not one rapper turned actor that was just as successful as Will Smith. Guaranteed. None. None. Undisputed facts. To be
Yeah,
the most. Hold on. I'm gonna wrap it up and I'm gonna let you go. But in order to be considered the most important rapper to ever have existed, that means the industry through which you function has to have changed because you were there. Everybody has to say that they're trying to be like you. Now, granted, yes, I feel like, let's say R&B. See, what LL Cool J is to rap, Bobby Brown is to R&B because they were the first ones out the gate to do that, right? So I could say, yes, Bobby Brown is one of the most important R&B singers to ever existed because he was one of the first guys out the gate to do it. Everybody, the Ushers, R. Kelly's, you know what I'm saying, the other Chris Browns, Trey Songz, they were all watching Bobby at one point. They were all watching him. So if LL Cool J was the bad boy in rap, to the ladies and still a tough guy, Bobby Brown was that. But we cannot say just because you came first, you are the most important. That's a whole different category. But I can say from 1988 to pretty much now, everybody is following that same blueprint that Bobby Brown laid down, whether they were looking at him or not. Because the person that you were looking at was looking at Bobby Brown, or they were looking at somebody that was looking at Bobby Brown. Now, again, I don't really hear people talk about LL Cool J when we talk about the Mount Rushmore of rap. I don't hear that. You know what I'm saying? He's not really in those conversations when you talk about, Jay-Z, you talk about Lil Wayne, you talk about Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole, Tupac, Biggie. You don't really hear them talk about him because you were the one that kicked down the door, but you weren't really the one to really set up shop like that, if that makes sense. But I want to get your feedback on that, or your rebuttal, whatever it is you have to say.
yeah. That was loaded. But I gotta say, I gotta call a flagrant foul on. No, I'm kidding. But honestly, I'm shocked by your answer. And after hearing you, while I do not disagree on the fact that Will Smith has a bigger career and stuff, I think when we talk about the music industry, I think it becomes hard to do that because now it becomes the battle of who is more successful. And if you look at it, yeah, Will Smith is more successful than L. Cool J, but Jay-Z has more money than Will Smith. But
No,
then
but it's not about who's successful. It's about who changed the game, who
the
has the
music
more
though.
long-standing influence. Because to be important, you are somebody of importance. That means you are on a pedestal. People are looking
But
at you. I feel like rappers in the 90s were looking at Will Smith as a barometer of where they wanted to be more so than LL Cool J, because anybody can go and get a chain. Anybody can go get some diamonds. Anybody can go and write a song that's to the ladies and make it a rap love song. People do that now. People do that every day. But not everybody can do what Will Smith has done, but people are still trying to this day. That's why you see Lil Durk having an appearance on Power. That's why you see artist Kendrick was on Power, because they're all, who do they want to be like? LL Cool J? No. They want to be like Will Smith.
no,
If somebody, real quick, I'm gonna let you go. But if somebody had to pick, if they had a role that they wanted to do, are they gonna pick Mike Lowrey in Bad Boys, or are they gonna be God from In Too Deep? If you ever saw that movie with him and Omar Epps,
oh yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure everybody's gonna want to be Mike Lowrey. That's a fact. That's a fact. And if you really
But
look at, like, right now, you're on your computer. Google LL Cool J Alfonso Ribeiro show, and you tell me if he was trying to be like Will Smith or not, because he was, and that show got canceled. It didn't work, but not going. My bad. I just, you know what I'm saying. When it comes to Will Smith and this topic, nah, like I'm just not going for the okey doke, man.
No, no, no. Like you're right, but at the same time, I think that unfortunately for me, I look at it this way. I think Will Smith has proven himself to be a much. He's shown that that rappers can cross over, but the problem with that statement is not every rapper wants to be an actual actor. And when we do see rappers who do acting, a lot of times the acting is garbage. They're not really putting a lot of emphasis in the acting. They're doing it for a quick paycheck. So, yeah, there are, the Ice T's, the L Cool J's, the Ice Cubes, the Snoop Dogs of the world who's made that transition. But like you said, they're not looking to be movie stars. They're
Well,
just
LL
working.
Cool
They
J
need the
was.
money.
LL Cool
Oh
J
no,
was
I
though.
agree.
Yeah, he was,
I,
and that's the thing. So it doesn't matter about these other guys who tried and failed. But LL Cool J is a guy who legit tried to copy and paste the Will Smith formula. I literally Googled it. The show was called, I didn't even remember what the show was called. That's how forgettable it was. But In the House, and he legit tried to take Will Smith's number two, put him next to him, and thought that people were going to feel the same way. And it didn't work. It didn't work. Like, you could just look at this shit. It's literally aimed to be just like
yeah,
Fresh Prince, pretty much. And he doesn't have that appeal. So I'm saying that the guy who's calling himself the most important rapper to have ever existed was trying to be like another rapper. So who is more important? Who is more
no,
important?
but
He
I,
beats him in rank.
No, no, I agree with you, but I think being influenced by somebody and I think these are two different things. Because, for instance, I can say I want to be like Denzel Washington, right? But if I'm a track and field, athlete, right? Usain Bolt is my competition in that. So it becomes like, yes, I think L Cool J aspired to be like a Will Smith, but I think when you're talking about the music in general, the biggest problem with again, I'm not saying Will Smith doesn't isn't a big part in this conversation, but not every rapper gets into rapping to transition to acting. And that's why I'm saying I don't think he's that important because most rappers aren't into acting. If you look at the landscape, how many greats there are, you can count on your hands how many of them actually went to acting. So I think when it comes to music, right, you got to look at it from the music entertainment industry because I think for me, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know every rapper that came before in the 1980s and the 70s, so I'm gonna be a little biased. Now, I gotta say, if I had to choose, I think it would probably be Tupac or Soldier Boy. Now, I know people might get confused about why am I putting these two different names in this hat. I would say Tupac. Again, I'm a little biased because he's before my time. But I think with Tupac, he showed that throughout the beefs, throughout all of the nonsense that was going on at that time, the drama, the gangs, the violence, and all that, he still took time to not only be a rapper, but talk about important issues. And I think even to this day, like we talk about Michael Jackson to this day, he's been dead for 30 years. And people still talk about Tupac's music not because he was a great rapper, because of his message. And I
Mm-hmm.
think he was the first rapper to really take rapping and not just make it, a successful art form about drugs and gangs and women. He talked about his mom. He talked about love, relationships, family. And I think that right there, for me, makes someone the greatest rapper to me. Now, Soldier Boy, why did I put him on there? Which
Because
I
I
thought
told you,
you was
because
going
I
to put.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I told we had that debate 3 years ago, and y'all can go on the playlist and catch that. It's a 2.5 hour long debate because you said that Bow Wow, was more important than Soldier Boy, and I literally broke it down why Soldier Boy was more important because Soldier Boy changed the game. He was a
But
game changer. And actually, I can wager that Soldier Boy is more important to music today as we know it than LL Cool J. He's LL Cool J's up there, but if we're talking about somebody who literally changed everything. That's Soldier Boy. LL Cool J again, he just started it. He he
you're
he
right.
he might have established the outline, but he wasn't the one that colored it in. And then you got that one guy that's going to change everything as we know it.
You're
You see
right.
what I'm saying?
You're right.
Oh, and
And
then by the way, Nas has did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 movies. Then I also remembered The Game was in that movie with Tyrese and freaking Tyrese and Megan Good. So yeah, there's other rappers who mad rappers who try to do. It's just that it's not common because we don't really talk about those movies like that. But again, who are they trying to be like? These niggas would be like, yo, I'm on my Will Smith. I'm doing movies now. You feel what I'm saying? Come on, man.
Yeah. No, no, you like I said, I'm not taking any point away from you. I think a lot of rappers, and this is part of the problem, a whole nother conversation, is that a lot of rappers have found the recipe for success. You become a successful rapper. Again, this is no discrediting your point about Will Smith, but a lot of rappers get a lot of fame, a lot of money, and it gets a lot easier to say, hey, I don't got an album right now. Let me go jump on a movie set, and make a couple six figures. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times these rappers don't treat it. That's why I don't. That's why for me, I'm not trying to give too much credence to it because a lot of rappers don't actually care about the art form. They're doing it for the dollar sign. So
Well, yeah, because it's
you know,
easy, and it's not. And honestly, I wouldn't even really say it's just them. It's the producers that think it's a good idea to take this famous, rapper singer and then stash him in the movie because they think that it's going to translate into, you know, more success or more revenue for the film that they're making. So
yeah. So like
it's a 50-50 thing.
yeah, yeah. So like for me, I look at it as, it's one thing if people were actually trying to do what Will Smith, and there are people, L Cool J,
And he
a
tried and he
couple other
failed.
people.
He tried and he
Yeah.
failed.
There's one, I'm forgetting his name right now, but he's an amazing actor. Common is another one. There
Yeah,
are some,
you see exactly. So
you know,
if you that's what I'm saying. Once you really think about it, like, damn, which other rappers really did try to act, especially Common. He did that romantic rom com movie with the Queen Latifah. His whole vibe was like trying to go for that Hitch type Will Smith vibe. And again, they tried, but they failed. So if everybody's trying to be like this one guy, he's the most important. He's the most important. And then
but
and you mentioned Tupac, and then here's the other thing too. In order to be the most important rapper to have ever existed, is you have to transcend music at that point. The reason why we say that Michael Jackson was the greatest entertainer to have ever lived was because he was bigger than just music. He stood for something much greater than that. So when we talk about Tupac stood for something much greater than that. And I feel like if he had been alive, especially what he was doing with film, then I could possibly say it would have been possible that he would have been able to transcend Will Smith in terms of being the most important rapper. Because I do think if he didn't die in 96, I think he still would have maintained that balance of releasing albums and then, talking about, real political, social, racial issues that we're going through, and then also still being a great actor at the same time. So he would have been able to balance all three. See, Will Smith was balancing music and film really up until, like the mid 2000s, and then he kind of stopped. But then now you see him starting to come around and release music just a little bit, maybe not to the extent of what he used to, because I think with Will, his time has passed. So what music will do for him is just allow him to express that other side that he hasn't been able to express in a long time. Whereas
right.
LL Cool J, what did he have to substantiate his claim? I was wearing diamonds. I was talking about girls. I was doing this. I was doing that. Well, everybody did what you did. You just did it first. That's fine, but that's it. You didn't do anything that anyone else couldn't do. And then the people that were able to supersede you, to surpass you in that way, again, is very few and far between. So when we're talking about greatest rappers of all time, then yeah, if it's just straight rap, MC, all that shit, then yeah, throw him in there to your heart's content. That's fine. But we're talking about importance. He's not number one. He's not number one. And then
Yeah,
anybody in the comment section can try to dispute that, but try to dispute that with facts, which you have none. You can only dispute it
but
with your opinion. And again, it's not a conversation of music, it's a conversation of importance, of influence, of significance. This man started rapping again, really, yeah, 40 years ago. Next year will be 40 years since his first album came out. And
but
yeah, that's cool, but you know what I'm saying? You're not
yeah,
really, mentioned. And so he had to create that conversation himself. It's
but
not like somebody else said it for him. He said it. And the thing is, if you're really the GOAT, you have to let other people say that for you. You can't really. I mean, you can give yourself your own flowers. That's fine. kind of like Soulja Boy did. But what really substantiated Soulja Boy's claims was the fact that we all had to agree because what he said was facts. I can't say what LL Cool J said was facts in terms of importance and significance.
But your point stands, and I get it. The only thing for me, and I think it depends how you look at the situation, because for most people in our generation and younger, they don't know Will Smith is a rapper. So for a lot of people, yeah, if you're a fan of Will, you might know that. But for the generations right now, even yeah, from our generation on, most people don't know Will Smith was a rapper. And people don't, no disrespect to Will. I'm sure he wouldn't be upset about it. But you don't really, besides summertime and maybe Switch, you don't really hear his music that
That's cap.
often.
That's cap. That's cap. That's cap.
It's true.
That
It's
that
true.
that that is cap. Will Smith got hits. Okay, Will Smith is not. Will Smith did not become a successful rapper because he didn't have hits. Just because those are the only two songs that you know, that doesn't negate all the other tracks
No, no,
that we know Will Smith for.
no. I'm not saying he don't have hits, but I'm saying like most. For me, when people talk about the most influential people, that means your work stands up to the test of time. Michael Jackson. Everybody, I don't care if you're a 4-year-old little kid or a 95-year-old grandmother.
Yeah, but that's not
Everybody.
right. But
But
that's not. But that's not the conversation though. Because again, you're trying to segue back. We're not talking about music. We're talking about importance. That's what I'm saying. If people, and it actually says more about Will Smith, that people know him for something other than music when he was huge back in the day in the 80s and 90s. So now he was literally able to transcend what he was successful for and become more successful in a whole nother field. That makes him important. That makes him important. If people only really know you for one thing, and that's all people ever talk to you about, if they even talk about you at all, you're not that important. Especially if you yourself have to call yourself the most important, rapper to ever existed, then you're probably not that important if you had to be the one to say that yourself. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about music specifically. Remember, bro, we're talking about who is more significant. And I already just said it's like, yo, this guy spent the greater portion of his career trying to be like this guy. So that's what I said. That's the rhetorical question.
yeah,
So who
but
is more important? That's what I'm saying.
yeah, but so that's why I said it depends on how you look at it. Al Cool J say he's the most important rapper that ever existed, right? So when you look at it and that you could splice it up differently. In your context, what you're saying is you're taking the most important aspect more than the rapper part. And a lot of people might push back on that, not because they don't like Will Smith, but when we're talking about the music industry and rap and acting are even though they're in the same industry, they're completely two separate
Right.
entities. I definitely get your point, and I'm not pushing back on that. I think it depends on how you view the headline. If you look at it from the most important rapper, I think it really depends on your definition of how you view this. Because if you look at it as the most important as from the most important aspect, yes. I think in either instance, the way how you look at it, Will Smith would probably be amongst the top. I just think that for me, the music industry and acting are two separate things. And LL Cool J didn't bring up rapping. So, and not rapping, he didn't bring up acting, his accolades in acting. So for me, it would be who has made a bigger impact on who's the most important rapper and actual the music industry. That's why I'm only pushing back on Will because I think that if we go down that road, then people might say someone like Jay-Z has shown that you can cross over from a rapper to behind the scenes, make a crap ton of money.
Yeah, but I'll push back on that because Jay-Z is not bigger than music. Yeah, he might be a businessman and all of that, but what people are going to remember him by is not how much money he had. People are going to talk about his music. That's a
How
fact.
you
Like Jay Z is not like I think yeah, Jay Z is an important rapper for sure, especially the time that he came up as. But I don't. To me, Jay Z is not like to me. Tupac is more important to rap than Jay Z. Tupac is more important to rap than LL Cool J, and you have to agree that. You have to
oh,
agree that.
that's why I
And
said
right, yeah, and the reason why is because he was bigger than music. The LL Cool J's only argument is because I did this, y'all copied me. And I said, okay, well, first of all, the only reason why rappers even get Grammys is because Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff qualified for that. and then they protested to make sure that rappers got the same acknowledgement as other categories. And then you spend the rest of your career trying to be like him. Tupac at his peak was bigger than LL Cool J at his peak. Facts. He was. He
Oh,
was. Yeah,
absolutely,
he was.
absolutely.
Because LL Cool J, for what he was trying to do, I don't think people really like his. Well, all right, you know what? Let me not even say that because I can't speak for anybody else. But I will say that Tupac's music speaks to me way more than LL Cool J's does. And LL Cool J doesn't have a juice. LL Cool J doesn't have a poetic justice. He doesn't have above the rim, gridlocked. He doesn't have any of these things. He doesn't have any of these things. And it's like, yo, if we're talking about like style and swag and all that shit, like I'd rather be like Tupac than LL Cool J. And it was crazy because Tupac's not really from. I mean, he was from New York City. I mean, depending on who you talk to, but Tupac was really from the West Coast. That's where he was repping. LL Cool J's from here, but I don't. I wouldn't really want to be like him. I'm not saying that I don't like him or I don't respect him, but I'm just saying it's levels, and he just never reached that echelon. What kind of songs you made or what kind of jewelry you were wearing does not guarantee or does not substantiate your claims. It just doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Right. No, and you're right. And that's why I was that's the only reason why I was pushing back on the Will Smith thing. Not because I don't agree with you, but I think in the confines of rapping, because then it becomes a matter of resumes. And I think when we're talking about the music industry, we can't do that because everybody has made there's a lot of people at the top who's went into other fields and made a lot more money in those fields than music. So then you can play around with, all right, well, this person made more money than, and we all know how people get about, what who when they're fans of certain people. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think if we stick to the confines of music, that's why I
But we
said,
can't though. Remember, I'm not talking about resume. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about influence.
no,
So
no,
if,
you're
if
right.
I say if I say that I'm the GOAT, or I'm the most important guy, as an actor, but then yet I've modeled my whole career after you, then you're more important. If I spent my whole entire career like trying to be like you, and then on top of that, you were the first one to win the pretty much the pinnacle of awards in our industry. You were the first one to do it. So you basically reached the same amount of success that I had, and then on top of it, you got that one award that I didn't, and you got it first. Who's more important? And
But
then the whole decade
I,
after that, so I influenced you because you look at the definition of importance, and I had to bust this out of great significance or value, likely to have a profound effect on success, survival, or well-being. Tell me that's not the definition of Will Smith in the context of this conversation
of
relative
course,
to LL Cool J. I'm
of
just
course.
saying. I'm like, yo, not to say that he's not. Remember, I said in the beginning, I'm like, yo, yeah, you could probably put him in the top five. Especially a lot of old school cats and shit like that. They'll probably say, yo, he's probably number one. Who was it? Was it Tony Yayo or some shit on Vlad?
Yeah,
Vlad pushed back on it, and then he was like, "Yo, don't yo," because especially I don't know where that nigga's from, but I'm pretty sure LL Cool J means a lot to him.
he's from
I'm not
Queens.
saying, huh?
He's from Queens.
Oh, exactly. You see, so yeah, they from the same area. So I'm maybe even Nas might fuck around and agree with it. But I'm saying when we're talking about and again, they'll anybody could probably beat me in terms of music and being a rapper alone. If we're talking about the greatest rappers of all time, LL Cool J is above Will Smith in terms of greatest rappers of all time. We're talking about rap and music. I agree. I wouldn't even debate that. For y'all niggas listen, I wouldn't even debate that. I'm saying important,
I
important,
wouldn't. Yeah, yeah.
influence, dominant, foremost, supreme, predominant,
I wouldn't.
paramount, overriding, cardinal, crucial, vital, indispensable, critical, essential. I'm giving you all of these words. And
No,
if,
let
if
me.
I'm
Let
going
me.
to assign these adjectives to one of these guys, I'm giving it to Will Smith because if you
Now
was
I got it. No,
copying
no,
me,
no,
if you was copying me, that means I'm more important than you.
no, no. I disagree, and the only reason
How?
I disagree is
How?
every rapper follows or models their career over somebody. Drake has had a lot of people he's followed, and he's bigger than a lot of them. So that my point is,
Right,
yes,
but Lil Wayne is more important than Drake. If we're
depends who
talking
you
about that, so
ask.
just
I
because
think
no, no,
so.
right, 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 right,
But
right. Just because Drake is bigger than Lil Wayne now, arguably, that doesn't mean that he's more important than Lil Wayne. And even and there's reasons for that because there's influence. That's what I'm saying.
But
Influence. Because
yeah,
again,
but
without Wayne, there is no, Tyga, there is no Nicki Minaj, there is no Drake, which were the biggest artists on Young Money. So without him, they wouldn't be there. They were following him. So if I'm saying that, okay, LL Cool J debuted in
yeah,
1985, cool. Will Smith came a year after that. They had the same type of success as LL Cool J, doing it their own way because there were two distinct rappers, and Will Smith got that award first. Who's more important? Then after we're just talking about a rap, the singular most best rap accolade. Period. Everybody
I,
wants to be Grammy award winning or Grammy nominated. That is a fact. And then when you go into the 90s, and then again, he was trying to be like Will, because let me just double check to see when In Too Deep came out. Let me just double
I,
check. You can give me your rebuttal in the meantime. I just gotta find it because
yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
that movie
Check
came out in the
that.
90s or the 2000s. I think it came out in the 2000. Oh, wait. That movie came out in 1999. You see what I'm saying? So within the 90s, he was trying to be just like Will Smith, because I'm pretty sure. Hold on, let me look at all the movies that he had come out in the motherfucking 90s real quick. He had, okay, so he did. Oh shit! I hope my computer don't die. Hope it don't die. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so he did The Hard Way, Toys, 1992, Out of Sync,
Yeah, but
Eyes on Hip Hop don't count. The Right to Remain Silent, that was a TV movie. Touch, Baps, Caught Up, Woo, Halloween H2 H2O 20 years later, Deep Blue Sea, Into Deep, Any Given Sunday. At that point, Will Smith had already transcended, surpassed LL Cool
yeah,
J. Okay? And the
yeah,
only reason,
but
and I'm pretty, again, because the only reason why he wanted to be an actor, because again, in Crush Groove don't count, and Wildcats don't count, because he was in that movie as himself. So he was there to showcase himself as a rapper. Crush Groove came out when that same year in 1985 when his first album came out. So those don't count. So we're counting from 1991 onward. Will Smith was already on TV on the Fresh Prince at that point. And in that same year, Fresh Prince was a hit. Who is he trying to be like? Will Smith.
but you're right. Let me just get this out. You're right. But at the same time, when we're talking about the actual music industry, Will Smith is not. I would probably put him in top five, but I will still give it. If we're talking about for me, when we look at the confines of what L Cool J is talking about, I got to give it to Tupac because as much as I
Right,
like
right,
Will,
right, right, right. But which I'm not gonna disagree with you. Because remember, I already agree with you about that. If I had
okay,
to, if yeah, I already agree with you about that. But I'm saying my whole argument is to say that not Will, that LL Cool J is not the most important rapper of all time. Now, I already gave my
okay,
stake as for why Will Smith is more important than him, and why I could say arguably he's more important than Tupac, only because everything that Tupac was trying to be in 1996 was because of Will Smith. That's
I
why.
disagree. I
Yes, you
disagree.
you you honestly think that Tupac wasn't already looking at Will Smith already before that when he wanted to become an actor?
You got to ask Jada
You
that.
think
No.
you think? Well, hey, no Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith will be slander will be tolerated. Period. But think about it, because he knew to become a star, I have to become bigger than music. And unfortunately, his life was cut off too short before he can do that. Because I said earlier, I said, yo, had Tupac been allowed to just live out life, he would have definitely transcended Will Smith, because he would have been doing all three. Because you see, Will Smith was only able to balance music and film only but till a certain point. I guarantee you, Tupac would have been able to do that in his sleep. That's the one thing that Will Smith wasn't able to do, because his style of rap was only but relevant but so far. Like you said, Switch. That was his last real album. That was the Lost and Found album that came out in 2005. So I don't think Will Smith would have been able to stay, with the times at that point. And especially a lot of his music was really kind of packaged with his films. Because I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it's true, but I'm pretty sure Switch was on the hit soundtrack. I'm gonna have to check that shit out, but I'm pretty sure it was. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna dispute that, because again, to me, I feel like Tupac is the greatest rapper of all time. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, and that has nothing to do with money. That has to do with influence. Like I said, because influence, significance, and who you are, artistry aside, that's what speaks to me. And all LL Cool J has going for himself is, again, diamonds, women, or love songs, and the other shit that he said that really doesn't mean anything when it comes to the grand scale of what you're going to be remembered for. Because every single other rapper that came after you did the same thing that you did. So what else do you have to bring to the table other than you coming first? Just because I was the first one to slam dunk doesn't mean that, yo, other people didn't come in there and change the game as far as slam dunks as we know, like, the slam dunk contest. You feel what I'm saying? There's other people that come in there and they rearrange and recalibrate everything. And you got others that literally change everything. Like the Will Smiths, the Soldier Boys, the Michael Jacksons, Tupacs. That's what I'm saying.
No, you're right, and I think this conversation, right, for me is, I think if we're talking about the confines of the conversation, Tupac wins, and we're talking about the most the most the greatest music icons of all time or something like that. I would give it to Will. I think for the just for the nuances of this conversation, just for the viewers, I think we agree Tupac is number one. And I know people want to say why Tupac, but again, just because he died early doesn't mean his impact isn't still felt
Because we still
today.
talk about him now. We still talk
Exactly.
about him now. And our reasons for talking about him doesn't even have anything to do with music. That's what I'm saying. When you hear me talk about Tupac, I'm usually it's not even a conversation about music. It's a conversation about what he stood for. The difference between Will Smith and Tupac is that Will Smith was and still is politically correct. You're not going to see Will Smith talk about social issues that might get him into trouble and might get him on the bad side of, let's say, these multi-million dollar producers that hire him to do these big blockbuster films. Tupac, I feel
No,
like if he was still alive, he would have, like, what's funny? This is a little side topic, but something that Denzel Washington said about Malcolm X, and initially I didn't agree, but now I understand what he means to an extent, is that someone said to him, they're like, because he did the Malcolm X movie directed by Spike Lee, in like
yep.
1992, 93, or something like that. They're like, if they said, if Malcolm X was alive, they were like, what do you think he would say about today? And he was saying that somebody like Malcolm X couldn't be alive today. And I feel like someone like Tupac, and it sounds bad, but I just feel like the type of person that he was and the things that he, like the power of his voice, like he was somebody that really understood the assignment of what his purpose was on this earth. And I think what he would have used his voice for in the spotlight for, somebody would have tried to take him out at some point. Now, I think it's unfair to us and to the people that looked up to him that he died so preemptively, but that was just the destiny of what his life was, because I feel like even though he died so early, he did enough that his purpose still speaks volumes to people like me, people like you, and then all the millions of other people that looked up to Tupac. And I think arguably, yeah, you could possibly say, yeah, that he is number one. But I still think that, if we're really talking about like rappers who, are around right now, that has to be Will Smith.
You're right.
So it's either Tupac or Will Smith. Yeah. So, but either way, we debunked LL Cool J. We debunked it. It's not him. It is not him, because I don't remember the last time I saw or heard LL Cool J talk about social issues or anything like that. We don't know him for that. We don't know him for that. I mean, somebody who's listening, you made it up until this point, drop some interview titles in the comment section or some songs he was talking about some social issues. But again, this isn't what we know him for. LL Cool J doesn't have a Brenda's Got a Baby. He doesn't have a Changes. He doesn't have I Wonder If Heaven's Got a Ghetto. He doesn't have those types of songs. He doesn't have those types of songs. We don't know him for that. We know him for being Mr. Smooth, cool man, all of that. But again, so many people have done that. People can't say, people try to moonwalk all the time, but you can't moonwalk like Michael Jackson. People have
Amen to
tried.
that.
People have tried and they failed. What makes you the most important is people can't do what you do. People can't take your shit, copy and paste it, and try to do the same thing. You might have another rapper try to talk about social issues, but it's not going to be like Tupac, was. It's not. It's just not gonna. It's just not gonna have that same effect. This is why you don't see another artist be like Will Smith on screen, because you can't do that. That's not something you can just copy and paste. So what makes you important, what makes you of significance, what makes you great is people cannot do what you do. You are a one of one. You're like a once in a millennium or once a generation type of, artist. LL Cool J, I'm sorry. He's not that. I'm sorry. He's not that. He's not that. He's founding father for sure. For sure. For sure. Absolutely. Cuz he was dropping albums in the 2000s too. But that doesn't make you the singular most important. That is cap. That is cap. And what you would consider to be the most important, we already agreed, that it's either Tupac or Will Smith, depending on how you look at the conversation. Depending on how
Exactly.
you have the conversation.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. And these conversations are always going to happen. But I do want to say before we wrap, I want people to like. I still hold El Cool to high regard. I think he's underrated. I think he's very underappreciated, and I think because he hasn't been a mainstay in the music industry as far as the artists go, people forget about his legacy. And I think people like him sometimes get tired of the narrative that he's garbage, he sucks, he's a nobody. Like, at some point I don't like when new fans and new generations come up and disrespect legends because I see people talk about, oh yeah, well Biggie was just an overweight fat dude from the Bronx. I'm from
Well,
Brooklyn.
whoever says
I'm
that is
just
a
like,
freaking idiot. Like
yeah,
that's just straight ignorance. Because anybody that really knows a thing or two about the artists of yesterday, they'll know better than to say that. Because we haven't had another artist like Biggie, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, there might be other fat guys, but they didn't have that same voice, that same impact that Biggie had. And again, that's arguable. But I think,
100%. But
yeah, but I think the reason why somebody like LL Cool J might get frustrated, and it's a different scenario, is completely different than what Soldier Boy was going through and what LL Cool J is going through. And the reason why I say that is because Soldier Boy was somebody that people just weren't giving him his credit. People weren't, because again, when you look at streaming, you look at how artists vlogging, you know, just using social media now. They're always on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok dances, and all that shit. Literally, Soldier Boy did that before all of this shit was a thing. He did that with less, and still went viral with less. When YouTube was relatively new, MySpace was still a thing. You only had MySpace, Facebook, and YouTube. And what was that shit called? SoundClick or some shit like that. He didn't even have anything. Now it's so easy for artists to do what literally he did. He became a worldwide phenomenon by himself. And people were just choosing to ignore that because no one has really done that since. So he just had to remind people, yo, remember what I did? LL Cool J is trying to say, remember what I wore? Remember the songs that I sang? That's different. That I'm just saying, it sounds bad, but with all due respect, those songs, the chains and all that, that comes a dime a dozen now. You were just the first one that did it. That's it. That is it. But that's not to say you're the most important ever. No. You Everyone did that already. Because even with the same thing with Bobby Brown, like, yo, Bobby did it all in really 3 years. He was really at the apex, arguably, of R&B. He had the look, he had the charisma, he had the talent, he had it all. But because he was the one that came first, he wasn't able to stand the test of time in terms of the 90s. So once 1992 came around, he dropped a good album, decent album. Bobby album went double platinum and everything like that. But that was pretty much it for the Bobby campaign. When you're all time, you can go on. You see how Will Smith is still coming out with music now? Still coming out with music now? With
yep.
what is that guy's name? With what's that his name? He's like the white boy. The I forgot. What
Jack Harlow.
no, ew, get the fuck out of here. No, not Whack Harlow. His name is what is it? Russ. Russ, if you know Russ. Coming out with songs with Russ. Freaking he dropped the song, You Can Make It with the Sunday Service Choir, and people, it still speaks to people now. He dropped freaking almost 40 years ago. I mean, is LL Cool J doing that? I don't know. I didn't see LL Cool J at the BET Awards when Will Smith was there performing his records. I didn't see him there. I don't know what he's doing now. This is what I'm saying. So this is why it's different. If Tupac was still alive, everybody would be listening to Tupac's music. I honestly believe that Tupac had to die in order for Kendrick Lamar to be who he is right now. West Coast rapper, kind of socially conscious, You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth. Because if Tupac was still around, what do we need Kendrick for? I'm just saying. Because
No, you're
Tupac
right.
was already doing that. Tupac, and mind you, Kendrick was looking at Tupac. You listen to Mortal Man, he has a conversation with Tupac because that's how much Tupac meant to him. That speaks to who Tupac is. That who somebody considers one of the goats of rap was looking at this guy. And if he was still around, you wouldn't really have a lane. You wouldn't really have a lane. Not really. I mean, you could come out, but you might be the young version of him. But if we already got him, what do we need you for?
Amen. No, you're right. 100%. You said it
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, like, yo, nobody. And again, if you made it to this point in this video, this is not about the greatest rap. Who is a better rapper. I'm not gonna argue that Will Smith is a better rapper than LL Cool J. He is not. He's more important than he is. He is more important than he is. Tupac is more important than LL Cool J is. And unless you can provide substantiated facts, not opinions, it's literally like moot point. It's null and void. Like it's debunked. I would say, I mean, I would probably say, I would say this to LL Cool J. I would. I'd be like, yo, listen, man, I don't know, man. With all due respect, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Because if that's what I'm saying, like, you don't call yourself the GOAT, other people will call that for you. You have to let other people have those conversations. The fact that you have to bring that up, that just means, yo, you're not that guy. You're not that guy. You're not that guy. If you had to say it yourself, because it's different. Soldier Boy, he was due his credit because people just didn't want to give him his credit for whatever reason. You, it's like he wanted credit for changing the industry. You want credit for being the first one to wear chains and to sing love songs. That's cool.
Yeah.
You say you're a founding father. He could say, the more appropriate statement would be, I belong on the Mount Rushmore of rap. When we talk about the Mount Rushmore, which consists of 4 or 5 heads, I have to be on there. That's debatable. Sure. Yeah, have at it. But you can't say you can't say that you're the most important rapper of to ever exist. That is fucking cap. So I don't know if you have any last words, man, but I think I've said my piece.
No,
So
no, you said it all. I think, at some point, for me, like I said, I just want to put it out there that this is no disrespect to the LL Cool J or any other legend, because I do know people have a habit of disrespecting people that came before their generation. But no, you said everything. I think that for
pretty
me,
poignantly, very poignant.
yeah, pointedly and blatantly. I think L Cool J, I think he's just trying to defend his name and his honor because, for so long people has written him out of the music industry because, he doesn't do music as he used to. But you know what? At some point, like you talked about Will Smith, I'll just say this. A lot of rappers stay in the game too long. And one of the biggest things I've ever heard athletes said is you want to leave the game before the game leaves you. And I
Facts.
think, L Cool J was smart. He got out at a time where he knew I'm at an age and I'm at a time where this music is not for me. I'm not gonna be able to make a whole living off of this anymore. I can't be talking about the same things I was doing in my 20s, early 30s.
Oh,
So you know what? He found this lane and grab from him. Like you said, I think this whole I'm the most important thing. It really the only thing that it starts is it gives people more latitude to discredit you more. So like you said, if you feel like you're that, just go out there and say it. You don't have to, or keep it to yourself. But if you are going to say that, just be prepared. Unless you're one of the top 3 in your industry of all time, people are going to push back and they're going to clown you and ridicule you.
yeah.
So,
Mm-mm.
L Cool
Yeah.
J, I'm still a fan. I will never disrespect him because, he's done a lot more in his career than most people have done in a lifetime. But, yeah, Tupac is the one for me, or Will Smith is
Yeah.
the one for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Depending on, what we're taking into consideration. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
it is not him. And then, like, I will say, for somebody who's grinding their teeth, who don't agree, hey, I'll set it up. We can come on, do a live debate. You can debate us and shit like that, and then we'll get to it. We'll get to work. If that's what you want, because I'm with all the smoke. But anyway, on that note, please be sure as always to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.
Mama said knock you out.